Eli Hayes clutched the steering wheel, his knuckles starkly white against the black leather as he guided his truck into the parking lot of his construction site. The satisfying rumble of the engine faded into a momentary silence as he turned the key, leaving him enveloped in quiet. His muscles ached from a 12-hour shift spent supervising the new high-rise project downtown, yet a sense of accomplishment settled over him. The overtime would provide extra padding for their savings account, another step toward the future he had always envisioned for himself and Jen. He reached for his phone, scrolling through missed calls. None were from Jen, as had become usual. 6 months ago, she would have texted him throughout the day, sending silly memes or venting about her colleagues at the gallery. Now, radio silence had become their new normal. He convinced himself it was merely a phase, that perhaps she needed space. After all, that is what good husbands do, is it not? They give their wives room to grow. A sharp rap on his window shattered his reverie. A young woman stood beside his truck, her face streaked with tears that had smeared her mascara. Her hand trembled as she held up her phone. "Mr. Hayes," her voice cracked. "I need to show you something." Eli lowered the window, frowning at the stranger. "Do I know you?" "No, but I know your wife." She thrust the phone through the window. "And I know what she has been doing while you work yourself to death." The video began playing before Eli could protest. His stomach lurched as he recognized their bedroom. The pale blue walls he had painted himself, the antique vanity Jen had insisted on buying. But it was not the familiar setting that made bile rise in his throat. It was Jen, his wife of 15 years, tangled in their sheets with a silver-haired man. Eli had never seen anything like it before. "Listen carefully, you pathetic fool." The man's voice dripped with contempt as he stared directly into the camera. "I sleep in your bed every night while you work overtime like an idiot. Your wife begs for me, calls my name instead of yours. How does it feel knowing you're nothing but her personal ATM?" Eli's hands began to shake, but he couldn't look away. The young woman's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts. "That's my father, Clifford Sterling." She spat the name like poison. "He abandoned my mother 6 months ago for your wife. Now they flaunt their affair all over social media, posting their little videos and pictures, not caring who they hurt. My mother tried to kill herself last week because of them." The phone screen went dark, but the images were burned into Eli's mind. He turned to face the young woman fully, noting the familiar shape of her nose, the same steel-gray eyes as the man in the video. "I'm Maya Rodriguez." She pulled a USB drive from her jacket pocket. "And I have everything. Bank records showing how they've been spending your money, hotel receipts, their disgusting messages to each other. Together, we can destroy them both." Eli's mind raced through the past 6 months, piecing together a twisted puzzle. Jen's sudden interest in yoga classes that ran late into the evening, the new clothes she claimed she needed for gallery events, the way she turned her phone away when texts came in, how she'd started sleeping on her side of the bed, barely touching him. "Why are you showing me this?" His voice came out steadier than he felt, years of managing construction crews helping him maintain his composure. Maya's laugh was bitter. "Because I watched my mother waste away while they lived it up on your dime. Because I'm tired of seeing good people get hurt while they act like none of it matters." She pressed the USB drive into his palm. "The choice is yours, Mr. Hayes, but I think you and I both want the same thing." Justice Eli closed his fingers around the drive, feeling its sharp edges dig into his palm. "How long have you been gathering this information?" 3 months, Maya replied, wiping at her tear-filled eyes. "Ever since I found my mother in the bathtub with her wrists slashed. She survived, thank God, but I swore that day I would make them pay. I just needed to find someone else who had as much reason to hate them as I do." The construction site had emptied completely during their conversation, leaving them alone in the gathering dusk. Eli studied Maya's face, seeing the same raw pain that clawed at his own chest reflected in her eyes. "I'll look through everything tonight," he said finally. "Leave me your contact number." Maya produced a business card identifying her as Maya Rodriguez, graphic designer, and scribbled her cell number on the back. "I'm sorry you had to discover the truth this way, Mr. Hayes. But they weren't going to stop. They were just going to keep taking and taking until there was nothing left of either of us." Eli nodded, tucking the card securely into his wallet. "Please, call me Eli. And Maya, thank you for showing me the truth." She offered him a grim smile in return. "Don't thank me yet. The truth is merely the beginning." As Maya's footsteps faded across the parking lot, Eli sat motionless in his truck. The USB drive felt as though it weighed 100 pounds in his hand. 15 years of marriage, of building a life together, had been reduced to a piece of plastic smaller than his thumb. He thought of all the times he had defended Jin to his friends when they called her high maintenance, how he had insisted she was worth every extra hour he worked. His phone buzzed with an incoming text from Jin. Working late again? Don't forget to pick up milk on your way home. Love you. Eli's grip tightened on his phone until he heard the protective case crack. The casual "love you" at the end of her message turned his stomach. How many times had she sent him those same words immediately after being with Cliff? How many nights had she kissed him goodbye, knowing she was going to meet her lover? He started the engine, but he did not head home in his truck. He could not face those pale blue walls tonight, nor could he lie in that bed, knowing what had happened there. Instead, he steered his truck toward the 24-hour diner where he and Rose often grabbed lunch. He needed coffee, quiet, and time to process the nuclear bomb that Maya had just dropped upon his life. As he drove, Eli felt something crystallize within him, a cold, old, hard certainty that would shape everything to come. Jen and Cliff had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed his dedication to providing for his wife made him weak. They had mistaken his trust for stupidity. But Eli Hayes was not weak, and he was not stupid. He was patient, methodical, and now he was furious. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that some games had consequences they could not imagine, and Eli intended to teach them that lesson personally. Chapter 2. The backstories. The fluorescent lights of Jerry's all-night diner buzzed overhead as Eli claimed his usual booth in the corner. The vinyl seats squeaked beneath him as he settled in, nodding to Donna, the night shift waitress who had been serving him coffee for the better part of a decade. Rough night, sugar? Donna appeared with a steaming mug and a concerned frown. You're usually home with that pretty wife of yours by now. The mention of Jen made Eli's jaw clench, but he managed a tight smile. Just need some quiet to think, Donna. And maybe some of those cheese fries. Coming right up, she said, hesitating as she studied his face. You know where to find me if you need to talk. Alone again, Eli pulled out the USB drive Maya had given him. He did not have his laptop, but he did not need it yet. Right now, he needed to understand how he had ended up here, sitting in a diner late at night, while another man slept in his bed. He remembered the first time he saw Jen, 15 years ago in the university library. He had been hunched over engineering textbooks, calculating load-bearing requirements for a project when her laughter had cut through the quiet study space. She had been telling her friend about an installation piece she was working on, her hands moving animatedly as she described her vision. Her energy had drawn him in like a moth to a flame. Their courtship had been a whirlwind. Jen brought color and spontaneity to his structured world, while he provided the stability she claimed she had always craved. They married right after graduation, moving into a tiny apartment while Eli worked his way up from construction worker to foreman. Jen took jobs at various galleries, always dreaming of opening her own someday. The first cracks had appeared gradually. Jen's comments about their modest lifestyle grew more frequent. She pointed out friends from art school who were traveling the world, living in luxury apartments, and driving expensive cars. Eli had worked harder, taken on more responsibility at work, anything to give her the life she wanted. Your cheese fries, hon. Donna's voice pulled him from his memories. You want to talk about it? Eli looked up at the waitress who had watched his marriage unfold over countless cups of coffee. Have you ever looked back at your life and realized you've been playing a role in someone else's story without knowing it? Donna slid into the booth across from him. That's the kind of question that needs pie to go with it. Give me a minute. While she was gone, he pulled out his phone and called Rose. She answered on the second ring, despite the late hour. Eli? Everything okay? No. His voice cracked on the single word. I need you to meet me at Jerry's. There's something you need to know. Rose didn't hesitate. I'll be there in 15 minutes. He made another call while he waited, this one to Marty Klein. They had been friends since high school, before Marty went off to law school and Eli chose construction. They didn't talk often anymore, but Eli knew he could count on him. Eli? It's almost midnight, man. I know, but I need a lawyer, Marty. I need someone I can trust. There was a pause on the other end. Give me 20 minutes. I'll come to you. Donna returned with a slice of apple pie and took one look at Eli's face. I'll bring 2 more plates when your friends get here. Rose arrived first, still wearing her work clothes, her dark hair pulled back in its usual practical ponytail. She slid into the booth beside Eli, taking in his expression. What happened? Before Eli could answer, Marty walked in, looking oddly formal in his suit despite the late hour. He claimed the seat across from them, loosening his tie. This must be serious if you're calling both of us at this hour. Eli pulled out his phone and played them the video Maya had shown him. Rose's hand found his arm, gripping it tightly as they watched. Marty's expression grew increasingly grim. When it finished, the silence at their table was deafening. Finally, Rose spoke, her voice tight with anger. I'll kill her myself. No. Eli's response was quiet but firm. This needs to be handled the right way. That's why you're both here. He told them everything about Maya, about the USB drive, about the past 6 months of lies. As he talked, he watched his oldest friends process the betrayal. Rose's anger was obvious in the way her fingers shredded her paper napkin. Marty's manifested in the calculated look that Eli recognized from their youth, when Marty would plan elaborate pranks on school bullies. First things first, Marty said, pulling out his phone to take notes. Don't confront her yet. Don't let her know you know anything. We need to document everything, build our case. Have you looked at what's on the USB drive? Not yet. I came straight here. Good. We'll do it together. Rose, you handle the financial records. You're better with numbers than either of us. I'll look at the legal implications of everything they've done. Marty met his friend's eyes. Eli, you need to decide how far you want to take this. They're using my money to fund their affair. Eli's voice trailed off, the weight of the revelation hanging in the air between them. His voice was cold. They're sleeping in my bed, laughing at how stupid I am. They drove that girl's mother to attempt suicide. How far do you think I want to take it? Rose squeezed his arm. We're with you. Whatever you need. I want them destroyed. The words came out with quiet certainty. Not just divorced, not just exposed, destroyed. I want them to lose everything, just like they tried to take everything from me. Marty nodded slowly. Then we do this smart. We do this clean. And we do this in a way they'll never see coming. They spent the next hour planning, their pie forgotten as they laid the groundwork for what would come next. Rose would help Eli track every penny Jean had spent. Marty would begin preparing divorce papers, gathering evidence of the affair and financial misconduct. And Eli would go home and pretend nothing had changed. As his friends finally left the diner, Eli sat alone with his cold coffee. He thought about Jean, probably sleeping peacefully in their bed, believing she had him completely fooled. He thought about Cliff Sterling, so confident in his superiority that he'd recorded himself mocking the man whose life he was destroying. They thought they knew him, the reliable, hard-working husband who would never suspect his wife's betrayal. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Because while Jean had been pursuing her excitement and Cliff had been pursuing his conquest, they'd forgotten something crucial. The most dangerous predators were the ones you never saw coming. Chapter 3. The gathering storm. The next morning, Eli drove home as dawn broke over the city. He'd spent the night in his truck parked behind Jerry's diner, running through every interaction with Jean over the past 6 months. Each memory took on new meaning now, tainted by the knowledge of her betrayal. He pulled into their driveway just as Jin's car started backing out. She slammed on the brakes when she saw him, then quickly composed herself, rolling down her window with a practiced smile. With a practiced smile, Eli inquired, "Where were you last night?" "I was worried sick." The concern in her voice would have fooled him yesterday, but today he detected the underlying tension and noticed the way her eyes darted to check her phone. "Got caught up in work," he replied smoothly, recalling Marty's advice to play it cool. "Ended up sleeping in my truck. Sorry I didn't call. You really should take better care of yourself, honey." JY's tone was perfectly calibrated, hovering between caring and dismissive. "I have yoga class this morning, but maybe we can have dinner together tonight." Yoga class? Eli wondered whether Cliff would be waiting for her at some hotel or if they would be desecrating his home again. "Sure, dinner sounds good." Jen blew him a kiss and drove away. Eli waited until her car disappeared around the corner before entering their house. The scent of her perfume lingered in the air, mingled with something else, cologne that wasn't his. His stomach churned as he made his way to their bedroom. The bed was made, everything in its place, but Eli saw it differently now. He opened JY's closet, noting the new designer clothes she claimed were sample sales from the gallery. He checked her jewelry box, counting the pieces he had given her over the years, wondering how many had been replaced with gifts from Cliff. His phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Can we meet? I have more information. They arranged to meet at a coffee shop across town, far from anywhere JY might go. Maya was already waiting when he arrived, her laptop open on the table. I've been monitoring their social media, she said without preamble. They're getting bolder. Look at this. She turned the screen toward him. There was JY, his wife, posed on a hotel balcony in a dress he had never seen, a champagne glass in hand. The caption read, "Living my best life with my soulmate." The photo was tagged with a private account, Cliff's, presumably. When was this? Eli's voice was steady, but his coffee cup creaked in his grip. 3 days ago. The Riverside Hotel, Maya answered. He pulled up another screen. They meet every Tuesday and Thursday while you're at work. Dad pays for it with his company credit card, but I'm pretty sure some of the charges are going through your accounts too. Eli thought of the recent credit card bills, the charges JY had explained away as art supplies and client dinners. How did you get access to his company accounts? I still had his passwords from when I helped with his books last year. Maya's smile was sharp. He never changed them. That's how I found out about everything in the first place. Eli connected his laptop to the coffee shop's Wi-Fi and inserted the USB drive. Together, they began going through the files Maya had collected. There were hundreds of messages between JY and Cliff, each more damning than the last. I love making him work overtime while we enjoy ourselves, Jen had written. He's so proud of providing for me. It's almost sad. Cliff's response made Eli's blood boil. Asterisk, let him work. The fool probably thinks you're at home missing him. Meanwhile, I get to enjoy everything he pays for. Asterisk, Maya touched his arm as he read. I'm sorry. I know how much this hurts. No, Eli said, his voice hard. This isn't about hurt anymore. This is about justice. He began copying the files to his own computer. Tell me everything else you know about their routine. For the next hour, Maya detailed her father's patterns. How he'd started staying at the Riverside Hotel 3 months ago when his own father had begun questioning his expenses. How Jen would visit him during her supposed yoga classes, gallery events, and client meetings. She even had photos of them at restaurants Eli had taken Jean to for their anniversary. There's something else, Maya said, pulling out a folder. Bank statements showing transfers from your joint account to a private one in Jen's name. She's been siphoning money for months. Eli studied the statements, his construction manager's mind calculating the total. Nearly $50,000 had been transferred in small, deliberate amounts to avoid detection. Money he had earned building other people's dreams while his own wife systematically dismantled his. I need to make some calls, he said, standing. Thank you, Maya, for everything. What are you going to do? Eli's expression was unreadable. I'm going to show them exactly who they've been underestimating. He drove to the construction site, where Rose was waiting in their shared office. She took one look at his face and closed the door. I've been going through the company account, she said. Every project you've overseen, every bonus you've earned. Jen's been accessing it all. I know, Eli replied, connecting his laptop and showing her what Maya had given him. I need your help, Rose. Not just as my friend, but as our company's financial manager. Rose's dark eyes hardened as she read through the messages, the bank statements, the hotel receipts. They're not just stealing from you, Eli. They're stealing from the company. These client dinners Jen's been charging, they're coming out of our project budgets. Can you document everything? Create a paper trail. Already started, she said, pulling out a thick folder of transactions and receipts. I told her to justify the expenses. When you're ready to move, we'll have everything we need. Eli nodded, feeling a cold satisfaction settle over him. I need one more favor. Can you help me set up a new account? Something secure, somewhere Jen can't access. Consider it done, Rose said, squeezing his shoulder. What's your next move? I'm having dinner with my wife tonight, Eli said, his voice devoid of emotion. She thinks she's coming home to her reliable, trusting husband. Let her keep thinking that for now. He spent the rest of the day working, focusing on the physical labor of the construction site to clear his head. Each swing of his hammer felt like practice for the blows he would soon deliver to Jen and Cliff's perfect little world. That evening, he returned home to find Jen in the kitchen, preparing dinner as though nothing were wrong. She was wearing a new dress, likely purchased with his money for one of her rendezvous with Cliff. Hi, honey, she said brightly. I made your favorite pasta. Eli forced himself to smile, to kiss her cheek, to play the role of devoted husband one last time. He sat at their dining table, eating food prepared by hands that had touched another man, listening to her chatter about her day. "The gallery's been so busy," she said, topping off his wine glass. "I might have to start staying late more often." "Whatever you need to do," he replied, thinking of the hotel receipts, the secret account, the videos of her laughing at his expense. "I trust you completely." Jin's smile faltered for just a moment, so briefly he might have missed it if he hadn't been watching for it. But he saw it, and he knew she was wondering if he suspected, if she had pushed too far. Then her mask slipped back into place, perfect and practiced. "That's why I love you," she said sweetly. "You always understand." Eli raised his glass in a toast, meeting her eyes across the table. "To understanding," he said, his voice steady despite the rage burning in his chest. "And to getting exactly what we deserve." Jin clinked her glass against his, oblivious to the storm gathering behind her husband's calm exterior. She had no idea that her carefully constructed world of lies was about to come crashing down. She couldn't see that the man sitting across from her wasn't the same one she'd been fooling all these months. That man had died in a construction site parking lot, watching a video on a stranger's phone. In his place sat someone new, someone who had survived betrayal and emerged with a heart of steel and a mind set on revenge. Let her think she was still in control, Eli thought as he watched his wife lie to his face. Let her and Cliff believe they were still winning their little game. They would learn soon enough that they'd made a fatal mistake. They had awakened something in Eli Hayes that they would come to regret. Soon, the wish had stayed dormant. The stage was set, the players were in position, and Eli was ready to show his wife and her lover exactly what happened to people who mistook his loyalty for weakness. This was just the beginning. Chapter 4. The first blow. Eli sat across from Marty in his law office, the morning sun screaming through the Venetian blinds. The USB drive lay between them on Marty's mahogany desk like a loaded weapon. "I want this done fast," Eli said, his voice carrying the same command and authority he used on his construction sites. "No warnings, no negotiations. I want her served with divorce papers when she least expects it." Marty leaned back in his chair, loosening his tie. "You sure about this? Once we file, there's no going back. She's been spending my money on hotels with another man." Eli's fingers drummed against the arm of his chair. "She made videos mocking me in my own bed. What exactly should I be going back to?" "Fair point." Marty pulled out a legal pad. "The evidence Maya provided gives us grounds for an at-fault divorce, citing adultery. We can also go after financial compensation given the misuse of marital funds." "I don't care about the money." Eli's eyes narrowed. "I want her to feel what I felt that moment when your whole world turns upside down and you realize everything you believed was a lie." "Then let's make it count." Marty began writing. "We'll file today. She'll be served within 48 hours. But Eli," he looked up at his old friend, "this is just the beginning. Are you ready for what comes next?" "I've been ready since the moment I saw that video." Eli stood, straightening his jacket. "Call Maya. Tell her it's time for phase 2. Maya met him at a coffee shop near her design studio, her laptop already open. She had been monitoring her father's social media accounts, tracking his movements through the digital breadcrumbs he left behind. "He's getting sloppy," she said, turning the screen toward Eli. "Look at this." A series of credit card statements appeared before them, the screen filled with charges from high-end restaurants, designer boutiques, and jewelry stores, all made on Cliff's company account. "He's embezzling," Meyer explained, her voice tight with satisfaction, "using the business accounts like his personal piggy bank. And the best part? He's not even trying to hide it anymore. Your grandfather doesn't know. Howard Sterling trusts his golden boy." Maya's laugh was bitter. "Dad's been stealing from the company for years, but this is different. The amounts are bigger, more frequent. He's trying to maintain the lifestyle he promised Jen." Eli studied the numbers, his construction manager mind calculating totals. "Can you get me copies of everything?" "Already done." Maya handed him a fresh USB drive. Bank statements, credit card records, even emails where he admits to moving money around. "He's always been arrogant, but this," she shook her head. "It's like he thinks he's untouchable." "No one's untouchable," Eli said, pocketing the drive. "Not even Cliff Sterling." Back at work, Eli maintained his routine. He arrived early, stayed late, took extra shifts, just as he always had. But now, each overtime hour served a different purpose. Let Jin think he was working himself to exhaustion, providing for her. Let her believe she still had him fooled. Rose watched him with growing concern. She'd known Eli for years, had seen him handle impossible deadlines and difficult clients without breaking a sweat. But this new version of him, this coldly focused man who worked relentlessly, was something else entirely. "You're scaring the crew," she told him one afternoon, closing his office door. "They've never seen you like this." "Like what?" "Like you're made of stone." Rose perched on the edge of his desk. "I get it, Eli. What she did, what they both did, it's unforgivable. But you can't let it consume you." Eli looked up from his computer, where he'd been reviewing the evidence against Cliff. "You know what Jin said to him in one of their messages? She called me her walking ATM, said I was too. It was foolish not to have noticed what was happening in my own house." His voice remained steady, but his eyes blazed. "They are going to learn exactly how foolish I am not." Rose reached for his hand, but he pulled away, standing to face the window that overlooked the construction site below. "I appreciate your concern," he said, his back to her. "But I need to handle this my way." "And what way is that?" she asked. "The way that ensures they never recover from what comes next." That evening, Eli drove home to find Jin waiting. She wore a dress, likely purchased with his money for one of her rendezvous with Cliff, and had prepared his favorite meal. "I thought we could have a nice dinner together," she said, pouring wine. "We have both been so busy lately." Eli sat at the table, watching her play the role of devoted wife. How many times had she done this? How many nights had she cooked him dinner, kissed him goodbye, then rushed off to meet her lover? "You seem distracted, Jin," she said, reaching for his hand. "Is everything okay at work?" "Work is fine," Eli replied. "Just thinking about the future." He took a bite of food he could not taste. "About choices and consequences." Jin's perfectly manicured fingers tightened around her wine glass. "What do you mean?" "Nothing specific," he said, offering her the same smile he had given countless difficult clients. "Just philosophical musings." Later, after Jin had gone to bed, Eli sat in his home office, reviewing the divorce papers Marty had prepared. They were comprehensive, detailing Jin's infidelity and financial misconduct in cold, precise legal language. Tomorrow morning, while she was at her supposed yoga class, actually a standing appointment at the Riverside Hotel with Cliff, a process server would be waiting. He opened his laptop and logged into the private email account he had created, following Ma's instructions. He began composing a message to Howard Sterling, attaching carefully selected evidence of his son's embezzlement. "Dear Mr. Sterling," he typed, "as a concerned employee of Sterling Enterprises, I feel compelled to I would like to bring certain irregularities to your attention." Eli worked through the night, meticulously building the first strand of his web. By morning, he had sent anonymous tips to Sterling Enterprises' board of directors, the company's auditors, and several financial journalists known for investigating corporate fraud. The trap was set. Now all he had to do was wait for his unfaithful wife and her lover to walk right into it. Chapter 5. The trap is set. Rose arrived at her office early the next morning to find Eli already there, his desk covered in financial records. "I need your help with something," he said without looking up. "How much do you know about offshore accounts?" Rose closed the door, her dark eyes narrowing. "Enough to know they're not usually legal." "What are you planning?" "Nothing illegal." Eli pushed a stack of papers toward her. "I just need somewhere safe to move my assets before JY realizes what's coming. Somewhere she can't touch." "You mean somewhere she and her boyfriend can't steal from you?" Rose corrected as she sat down, examining the documents. "These are all your personal accounts." "Joint accounts," Eli corrected. "Accounts she's been draining for months to fund her affair. I want everything moved before she gets served with the divorce papers." Rose's fingers flew over her calculator. "Jesus, Eli, do you realize how much money she's taken?" $7,412. His voice was flat. "Plus another $30,000 in credit card charges for hotels, restaurants, and gifts for Cliff. And you're just going to take it?" "No." Eli finally looked up, his eyes hard. "I'm going to take everything." They spent the morning transferring funds, closing accounts, and redirecting his paycheck to a new bank. Rose handled the paperwork with the same efficiency she brought to managing the construction company's finances. "There," she said finally. "She's got access to exactly one account now, with exactly $1 in it. Let her try to book her next hotel room with that." Eli's phone buzzed, a text from Maya. Package delivered to JY. Howard Sterling's office was about to witness a day of profound turmoil. Across town, Howard Sterling sat in his corner office, staring intently at the contents of a plain manila envelope that had arrived with his morning mail. Inside were bank statements, credit card records, and emails from his son to Jen Hayes, in which he bragged about how effortlessly he had been stealing from the company. Howard's hands trembled as he reached for his phone. "Get me Thompson from Internal Audit," he barked at his secretary. Now, the evidence laid bare was damning. Cliff had been systematically embezzling funds, using company accounts to finance his affair with a married woman. The amounts were staggering. Hundreds of thousands of dollars siphoned through fabricated vendor accounts and inflated expense reports. "Sir," Thompson said, appearing in the doorway, his laptop clutched tightly. "You wanted to see me?" "Sit down," Howard commanded, spreading the documents across his desk. "I want a complete audit of everything my son has touched in the last year. And get legal up here. It's time Cliff learned that actions have consequences." Meanwhile, Jen Hayes arrived at the Riverside Hotel for her regular rendezvous with Cliff. Before she could reach the elevator, the desk clerk stopped her. "Mrs. Hayes," he said, holding out a thick envelope. "This was left for you." Jen's blood ran cold as she read the divorce petition. Adultery, financial misconduct. Her own words quoted back at her from messages she had believed were private. And there, in black and white, was the full accounting of the money she had stolen from her husband. Her phone rang. "Cliff, baby, we have a problem." His voice was panicked. "My father, he knows everything. About the money, about us. I'm being audited. They've frozen all my accounts." Jen sank into a lobby chair, her designer purse slipping from her nerveless fingers. "How? Who could have? I don't know." Cliff interrupted, his breathing rapid and erratic. "But it gets worse. The board is meeting right now. They're talking about pressing charges. What are we going to do?" Jen began, but Cliff laughed harshly. "Sweetheart," he said, "you're on your own. I've got my own problems to deal with. There are greater problems than a kept woman who has just been caught." The line went dead. JY stared at her phone, then down at the divorce papers resting in her lap. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling around her, and she had no idea why. She attempted to use her credit card to pay for a cab home, but it was declined. Checking her phone, she discovered all her accounts had been emptied or closed. Even her personal credit cards, the ones Eli did not know about, were frozen. Walking into their house hours later, she found Eli in the kitchen, calmly making coffee. "You did this," she said, throwing the divorce papers at him. "Somehow you did all of this." "Did what?" He did not look up from his coffee. "I am not the one who made videos mocking my spouse. I am not the one who stole money to fund an affair. I never meant to hurt you." Jen's voice cracked. "It just happened. Cliff, he made me feel alive again." And now Eli finally met her eyes. "How alive do you feel, knowing he abandoned you the moment things got difficult? How alive do you feel, knowing you threw away 15 years for a man who called you his kept woman?" Jen's face went white. "How did you know about that phone call?" Eli smiled coldly. "I know everything, General. Every message, every hotel room, every dollar you stole. And now everyone else knows, too. You will destroy yourself trying to destroy us," she warned. "Is that what you want?" "What I want," Eli said, setting down his coffee cup with deliberate care, "is for you to understand exactly what you have lost. Now get out of my house." "This is my house, too. Check the deed." Eli pulled a document from his briefcase. "I bought you out this morning with the money you stole from me. You have 1 hour to pack your things before I call the police." Jen fled upstairs in tears. Eli listened to her rage echo through the ceiling, throwing things and sobbing as she packed. Let her cry. Let her feel a fraction of the pain she had inflicted on him. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Maya. "Dad's been fired. The board is pressing charges. Want to see him beg." Attached was a video of Cliff Sterling being escorted from Sterling Enterprises by security, his father watching with cold eyes as his son's company credit cards were cut up in front of him. Eli forwarded the video to Jen's phone with a simple message: "Consequences." He heard her cry of despair from upstairs and smiled. The trap had sprung perfectly, catching both his unfaithful wife and her lover in its steel jaws. But this was just the beginning. He had more planned for them, much more. By sunrise, he would make sure the whole world knew exactly what kind of people they really were. Chapter 6. The confrontation. Cliff Sterling stood in his father's office, watching 40 years of privilege and power crumble around him. Howard Sterling sat behind his massive desk, radiating cold fury as he read from a stack of papers. $275,000, Howard said, his voice trembling with rage. That's how much you stole from this company to finance your affair with a married woman. Dad, I can explain. Explain? Howard slammed his hand on the desk. Explain how you embezzled money from your own family? Explain how you used company funds to seduce another man's wife? Or explain these. He pushed forward printouts of the messages between Cliff and Jen, their mocking words about Eli highlighted in angry yellow. I raised you better than this. Howard's disappointment cut deeper than his anger. I gave you everything, education, opportunities, trust, and this is how you repay me? By becoming a common thief and adulterer. It's not what you think. Cliff tried to project his usual confidence, but his voice shook. Jen and I, we're in love. Eli Hayes is a fool who doesn't appreciate what he has. A fool. Howard pushed another document across the desk. This fool just sent our board of directors a complete accounting of your theft. This fool has evidence that could send you to prison. Still think he's as stupid as you claimed in these messages. Cliff sank into a chair, his arrogance finally broken. Cracking? What are you going to do to me? Nothing, Howard replied, standing upright and straightening his tie. The board has already voted. You're fired, effective immediately, and the company will be pressing charges. You can't be serious. Cliff exclaimed, leaping to his feet. I'm your son. You stopped being my son the moment you betrayed this family's trust, Howard stated firmly, pressing a button on his desk. Security will escort you out. Don't bother going to your office. It's already being packed up as evidence. What about my accounts? My credit cards? Frozen, Howard answered, turning his back to stare out his window at the city below. You wanted to act like a criminal, Cliff. Now you can live like one. Security arrived to find Cliff pleading with his father to reconsider. They confiscated his company phone, cut up his credit cards, and escorted him through the lobby, past staring employees. Outside, his Mercedes had already been repossessed. Desperate, he called Jen from a payphone. Baby, listen, he said as soon as she answered. Things have gone wrong, really wrong. I need you to get whatever cash you can from Eli's accounts. We need to, they're empty. Jen's voice was hollow. He froze everything. I can't even pay for a hotel room. What do you mean, empty? What about your personal accounts? Gone. All of it, she laughed bitterly. He served me with divorce papers. He knows everything, Cliff. Someone told him. Someone showed him all our messages, our pictures, everything. This is your fault. Cliff's fear turned to anger. You must have gotten sloppy, left evidence somewhere. Do you realize what you've cost me? My job, my reputation, my father's trust. My fault. Jen's voice rose. You're the one who insisted on recording those videos. You're the one who couldn't resist bragging about sleeping with me in Eli's bed. God, how could I have been so stupid? You weren't stupid, Cliff, he sneered. You were convenient. A bored housewife so desperate for excitement, she believed anything I told her. Face it, sweetheart, you were just an easy mark. He hung up before she could respond, but his own words echoed in the silence that followed. His victory proved fleeting. His credit cards were declined at 3 separate hotels before he finally located a dilapidated motel that accepted cash. Seated upon the stained bedspread, Cliff opened his laptop to review his accounts. They were frozen. Even his private savings, the funds he had concealed from his father, were now inaccessible. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages from friends and business associates, all inquiring about the spreading rumors of his embezzlement and affair. Across town, Jen remained in her car outside the home she shared with Eli, observing him through the windows. He moved through the rooms with determined purpose, taking down photographs from the walls and packing her belongings into boxes. Her phone was flooded with missed calls from the art gallery. They had seen the social media posts detailing her affair and the evidence of her theft. She had been terminated via email an hour prior. We need to talk, she texted Eli. His reply was immediate. The police are on their way. Leave now. But Jen was desperate. She exited her car and strode to the front door, pounding on it with both fists. Eli, please. Just let me explain. The door opened, but it was not Eli who stood there. It was Rose. He doesn't want to talk to you, Rose stated, blocking the doorway. And after what you did, I don't blame him. This is my home. Jin protested, attempting to push past her. Actually, we can keep you out. Rose held up a document. This is a restraining order. If you come within 100 feet of Eli or this house again, you will be arrested. He's my husband. Not for long, Rose replied, her voice icy. Did you truly believe you could wound him like this and escape consequences? Did you imagine he would continue working himself to exhaustion while you squandered his money on your lover? Jin stepped back, suddenly unnerved by the sheer hatred in Rose's eyes. I never meant. Save your excuses for someone who cares. Rose began to close the door, then paused. You know, your gravest error was mistaking Eli's kindness for weakness. You are about to discover precisely how mistaken you were. The door slammed shut in Jin's face. Through the window, she could still see the evidence of her life being systematically erased. She observed Eli materialize beside Rose, his arm draped protectively around her shoulders as they both watched JY retreat to her car. Later that evening, Jin sat in a cheap motel room, strikingly similar to the one Cliff had secured, scrolling through social media on her phone. She suspected Maya had leaked their private correspondence across every platform. Her Instagram was inundated with comments branding her a thief, a homewrecker, and a gold digger. The art world contacts she had meticulously cultivated over the years were now publicly denouncing her. Her phone rang, an unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Hayes, a journalist's voice inquired. Would you care to comment on the allegations of theft and adultery, or regarding Cliff Sterling's embezzlement from Sterling Enterprises? Jin hung up, but the harm was already done. Her phone continued to ring incessantly. Reporters, former friends, enraged strangers who had encountered the viral posts about her affair. She powered it off and curled up on the bed, finally grasping the full magnitude of all she had lost. In his home office, Eli monitored the chaos unfolding on his computer screen. Maya had executed her task flawlessly. The evidence was ubiquitous, impossible to refute or rationalize. His phone buzzed with a text from Marty. Divorce papers are filed. Given the evidence, she won't receive a penny. Should I pursue Cliff for alienation of affection? Eli responded with a grim smile, typing, hit them with everything. No mercy. He then opened his email to find a message from Howard Sterling himself. Mr. Hayes, I wish to apologize personally for my son's reprehensible behavior. Rest assured, Sterling Enterprises will cooperate fully with any legal action you choose to pursue. Some men, like my son, only learn through consequences. I respect how you've handled this situation. Regards, Howard Sterling. Eli forwarded the email to Maya, appending, your father's kingdom is burning. Are you satisfied? Her reply arrived promptly. Not yet, but I'm enjoying the show. The following morning, Eli drove to work as usual. His crew observed him with a blend of awe and trepidation. They had all witnessed the turmoil. The social media posts had broadcast far and wide the deeds of JY and Cliff, yet their employer betrayed no hint of the inner turmoil. He governed the platform with the same unyielding authority he had always wielded, his directives exacting and absolute. Only Rose perceived the glint of gratification in his gaze when updates arrived. Reports of Cliff being turned away from his preferred establishments, of JY's fruitless efforts to regain entry to their former accounts. She observed him overseeing his construction ventures with the same meticulous focus he had once employed to dismantle the lives of his adversaries. Was it worth it? She inquired as dusk settled. Eli cast his eyes across the construction site, where his crew was concluding the day's labor. They regarded me as little more than a walking bank, he murmured, his tone subdued. A fool to be exploited and cast aside. Now they understand otherwise. His phone buzzed, another plea from JY, begging for dialogue. He erased it unread, just as he had all her prior entreaties. Let her plead. Let her weep. Let her and Cliff alike come to grasp the fate of those who mistook his compassion for frailty. The snare had closed flawlessly, leaving the two of them shattered and laid bare. Yet Eli took no delight in their anguish, no triumph in their ruin. He felt only a frigid contentment that justice had been dispensed, that the cost of treachery had been settled in full. They had pursued their schemes, believing him too oblivious or too foolish to take note. Now they would endure the repercussions of underestimating Elijah Hayes. Chapter 7. The unraveling detective Ray Maxwell scrutinized the evidence board in his office, threading crimson strings between photographs of Eli Hayes, Jen Hayes, and Cliff Sterling. 2 decades on the force had honed his intuition, and something in this case set his detective's instinct to quiver. "Walk me through it once more," he instructed his partner, Detective Sarah Chan. 6 months ago, Chan recounted, indicating the timeline. Cliff Sterling abandons his wife for Genevieve Hayes. They embark on an affair, drawing funds from both Eli Hayes' accounts and Sterling Enterprises. Then, abruptly, everything falls apart too suddenly, Maxwell mused. First, the anonymous tip to Howard Sterling about his son's embezzlement. Then the social media expose, the divorce filing, the financial freeze. It all feels too coordinated. Do you think Hayes orchestrated it? I think someone smart enough to run multi-million-dollar construction projects isn't going to just roll over when his wife cheats on him. Maxwell tapped Eli's photo. The question is, can we prove it? Their discussion was interrupted by a knock. Officer Jenkins stood in the doorway, holding a file. "You're going to want to see this, Detective. We just got an anonymous tip about Cliff Sterling. Someone sent footage of him threatening Jen Hayes, plus evidence of illegal gambling operations he's been running out of that motel he's staying in." Maxwell took the file, his frown deepening as he reviewed its contents. The video quality was professional grade, clearly taken from hidden cameras. Sterling appeared drunk, raging at Jen about ruining his life. "Give me everything you can on Hayes' movements for the past month," he told Jen. "Bank records, phone logs, anything. Whoever's dismantling Sterling's life piece by piece. I bet we'll find Hayes' fingerprints somewhere." Across town, Eli sat in Marty's office, reviewing the latest developments. "Detective Maxwell's been asking questions," Marty said, loosening his tie. "He's smart, experienced. We need to be careful. Let him ask." Eli's voice carried the same authority he used on his construction sites. "Everything we've done is legal. The evidence against Cliff came from legitimate sources. The social media posts were all public information. Even the surveillance footage was obtained with proper permits. And the anonymous tips? Concerned citizens have a right to report suspicious activity." Eli's smile was cold. "Besides, Ma's handling that part. Everything traces back to encrypted accounts she set up months ago." Marty leaned back, studying his old friend. "You have considered every eventuality, have you not? They believed me to be foolish, Marty, a simple construction worker whom they could exploit and cast aside. Now they are discovering precisely how mistaken they were." Meanwhile, Cliff Sterling paced the confines of his motel room, empty whiskey bottles scattered across the floor. His laptop displayed his rapidly diminishing bank accounts. The meager funds remaining after his father had disinherited him were vanishing swiftly. His phone rang, an unlisted number. "Mr. Sterling," reported a cautious voice. "Care to comment on the allegations regarding your illegal gambling operation, or the video capturing you threatening your former mistress?" Enraged, Cliff hurled the phone against the wall. How? How had they obtained footage from inside his room? Who was observing him? A knock at his door startled him. 2 uniformed officers stood outside. "Mr. Sterling, Detective Maxwell would like to speak with you downtown." As they escorted him away in handcuffs, Cliff glimpsed Maya watching from across the street, her phone raised to document his humiliation. The fragments of the puzzle abruptly aligned in his mind. "Hayes," he muttered. It was Hayes all along. At the construction site, Rose discovered Eli in his office, reviewing project specifications with his characteristic focused intensity. "They arrested Cliff," she announced, closing the door behind her. "It is all over the news. Illegal gambling, threats of violence, evidence of ongoing fraud. They are suggesting he could face substantial prison time." "Good," Eli replied, without lifting his gaze from the blueprints. "Perhaps incarceration will instruct him not to covet another man's wife." "Jen contacted me," Rose continued cautiously. "She is desperate, Eli. The gallery terminated her. No one will employ her following the scandal. Furthermore, Cliff's motel evicted her after his arrest. She is now sleeping in her car." Eli finally looked up, his expression stern and unyielding. "And nothing. I informed her she made her decision 6 months ago. I merely thought you should be aware. The divorce will be finalized next week." Returning to his work, he added, "She will receive nothing except the clothes on her back and the car she is sleeping in. Let her experience the consequences of her choices." Fearing the loss of all she held dear, Rose studied her friend's countenance, finding no remnant of the warm and generous man she once knew. In his place sat someone hardened, someone tempered in the crucible of betrayal into an unyielding figure. "Detective Maxwell visited the site today," she said. "He asked many questions about you, about the timeline of everything that has happened." "Let him ask," Eli replied, his tone composed. "We have done nothing illegal. They were the ones who broke the law, not us. We merely ensured they faced the consequences." His phone buzzed, a text from Maya. "Dad's being processed downtown. Want to watch the news coverage?" Eli smiled, a predator's expression of grim satisfaction. "Put it on the big screen." Rose took the remote and switched on the office television. There was Cliff Sterling, once the proud scion of a business empire, being escorted into the police station in handcuffs. The news ticker scrolled below. Sterling air arrested, illegal gambling, threats of violence, corporate fraud among charges. "You know," Rose said softly, "most men would have simply divorced her and moved on. Most men," Eli's voice was ice, "have not watched videos of their wife mocking them in their own bed. Most men have not had their kindness repaid with theft and betrayal. They wish to play games with my life, so be it. But they are learning that some games have winners and losers, and I do not lose." As they watched Cliff's disgrace unfold on screen, Eli felt no joy, no satisfaction, only the cold certainty that justice was at last being served. The beast that Jen and Cliff had awakened within him would not rest until they had lost everything, just as they had tried to take everything from him. Chapter 8. The price paid. Jen Hayes huddled in her car, parked in a grocery store lot, trying to stretch her last $20 into enough food for the week. Her phone, now limited to a basic prepaid plan, showed yet another missed call from her lawyer. Not that it mattered. The evidence Eli had compiled left her no legal recourse, no path to contest the divorce or claim any marital assets. A tap on her window made her jump. Maya stood outside, her expression unreadable. "We need to talk," Maya said. "Coffee on me." 10 minutes later, they sat in a nearby diner, Jen clutching a cup of cheap coffee like a lifeline. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Come to gloat." "No," Maya's voice was steady. "I came to make sure you understand exactly what you've lost. See, I watched my mother try to kill herself because of what you and my father did. I watched her world collapse while you posted pictures of champagne brunches and luxury hotels." "Maya, I don't." Maya held up a hand. "I'm not interested in your excuses. I just want you to know that everything happening now, the social media exposure, the financial ruin, the public humiliation, you earned this. You and my father thought you could treat people like toys to be played with and discarded. Now you're learning that actions have consequences." Jen's hands shook as she set down her coffee. "It was Eli, wasn't it? He orchestrated all of this." "You still don't get it." Maya stood, dropping a few dollars on the table. "You thought he was weak because he was kind, because he worked hard to give you the life you wanted. That was your mistake, and my father's. You never saw the steel beneath the surface until it was too late." She walked away, leaving Jen alone with her cooling coffee and crushing regrets. Outside, she texted Eli, "It's done. She's broken." Across town, Cliff Sterling sat in an interrogation room facing Detective Maxwell. "We have you on video threatening Miss Hayes," Maxwell said, spreading photos across the table. "We have evidence of illegal gambling operations, wire fraud, embezzlement. Want to tell me your side?" "This is all Hayes," Cliff spat. "He set me up. He's been systematically destroying my life." "Really?" Maxwell raised an eyebrow. "Because our evidence suggests you destroyed your own life. You stole from your father's company. You ran illegal games. You threatened violence against your mistress, Mr. Sterling. Mr. Hayes merely provided evidence of crimes you were already committing. He had no right. Actually, as a citizen reporting criminal activity, he had exactly that right." Maxwell gathered his photographs. "You are looking at serious prison time, Mr. Sterling. You might want to rethink that attitude." Left alone, Cliff slumped in his chair. How had it come to this? 6 months ago, he had possessed everything. Money, power, a beautiful mistress who worshipped him. He had felt invincible, untouchable. Now he sat in a police station, facing years in prison, his reputation and future utterly destroyed. His lawyer entered, looking grim. "They have you cold, Cliff. The evidence is overwhelming." The best we can hope for is a plea deal. What about my father? Surely he won't let this happen. Howard Sterling issued a statement an hour ago. He is publicly disowning you, cutting all ties to protect the company's reputation. Cliff felt the last pieces of his world crumble. In the space of a few months, he had lost everything. His money, his freedom, his father's respect. All because he had underestimated a man he had dismissed as a simple construction worker. Back at the construction site, Eli received an update from Marty. Cliff is taking a plea deal. His lawyer reported a minimum of 5 years, plus restitution to Sterling Enterprises. He is also banned from any future role in the company. Howard is writing him off completely, and Jen's divorce is final next week. The judge reviewed all the evidence. She gets nothing except her personal belongings and the car. No alimony, no property rights, no claims on your assets or business interests. Eli nodded, a sense of satisfaction settling over him like armor. Make sure the restraining order stays in place. I do not want her within 100 yards of me or this site. Already done. Marty studied his friend's face. You have one, Eli. They are both destroyed. Maybe it is time to. To what? Eli's voice carried a warning edge. Forgive them? Show mercy? They showed me none when they were on top, mocking me in my own bed while they were stealing my money and laughing about how stupid I was. He turned to face the window, watching his crew work below. No, they chose this path. Now they can walk it to the end. His phone buzzed with another message from JY, begging for help, for mercy, for a chance to explain. He deleted it without reading it, just as he had deleted all her other attempts at contact. Let her beg. Let her learn what it felt like to lose everything. He had given her 15 years of loyalty, love, and hard work. She had repaid him with betrayal and theft. Now she could live with the consequences of that choice. Ma's next update brought a smile to his face. Jen had been spotted sleeping in her car outside a homeless shelter, too ashamed to go inside, where people might recognize her from the viral social media posts about her affair. Karma, Rose said when he showed her the message. She wanted excitement and adventure. Well, she's getting plenty of both now. Eli's smile held no warmth. They thought I was weak because I was kind, because I worked hard and played by the rules. That was their mistake. He turned back to his blueprints, the plans for his next construction project laid out with the same precision he had used to dismantle his enemies' lives. I wasn't weak. I was patient. And now they're learning exactly what that patience has cost them. Chapter 9. The New Dawn. 1 year later, Eli stood in his office at the construction site, reviewing the morning paper. The headline caught his eye. Sterling heir begins prison term. Former business scion reports to federal prison. The article detailed Cliff's fall from grace. The son of a business empire now reduced to a prison jumpsuit and a 5-year sentence. His father, Howard Sterling, had publicly cut all ties, ensuring Cliff would never again have access to the family's wealth or connections. A knock at his door revealed Rose holding 2 cups of coffee. Saw the news, she said, setting his cup on his desk. How does it feel, Eli? Justice, I mean. Eli took a slow sip, savoring both the rich coffee and the quiet satisfaction of the moment. Just then, Maya sent an update. General is working as a waitress in a diner 3 towns over. Living in a studio apartment, taking the bus to work. Quite a change from the luxury lifestyle she was so desperate for. Any regrets? Rose's voice was soft, probing. Eli's tone held no emotion. About making sure they faced consequences for their actions? About teaching them that betrayal carries a price. He shook his head slowly. The only regret I have is not seeing through their act sooner. The intercom buzzed, and his secretary's voice came through. Mr. Hayes, Detective Maxwell is here to see you. Send him in. Maxwell entered, looking much as he had during the investigation. Suit rumpled, eyes tired, the weight of too many cases evident in his weary stance. Mr. Hayes, he nodded to Rose, then focused his attention on Eli. Thought you'd want to know. We're closing the investigation into your involvement in the Sterling case. My involvement? Eli's expression remained neutral. I was merely a concerned citizen reporting criminal activity. Right, Maxwell replied, his tone suggesting he didn't believe that for a second. Well, whatever your role, it was all perfectly legal. Cliff Sterling committed his crimes. You just made sure he couldn't hide them anymore. Is that all, Detective? Maxwell studied him for a long moment. You know, Most men in your position would have just gotten divorced and moved on. But you dismantled their entire lives, piece by piece. Made sure they lost everything. They tried to take everything from me. Eli replied calmly. Actions have consequences. They're just learning what those consequences are. After Maxwell left, Rose turned to Eli. He knows you orchestrated the whole thing. Let him know. We did nothing illegal. They were the criminals, the thieves, the adulterers, the fraudsters. We just made sure they couldn't hide it anymore. His phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Mom's doing better. The therapy's helping. Thank you. For everything. Eli smiled. His first genuine expression of the day. At least some good had come from all this. Maya's mother was recovering, rebuilding her life after Cliff's abandonment. Maya herself had found peace, and seeing justice served brought its own quiet satisfaction. You know, Rose, she said quietly. You could have just ruined them financially. You didn't have to take everything. Yes, I did. Eli's voice was steel. They thought they could play with my life, mock me, steal from me, betray me, all because they saw kindness as weakness. I needed to show them, and anyone else who might try the same thing, that some lines you don't cross, some betrayals you don't survive. He turned back to his work, to the plans and projects that had kept him focused through his campaign of revenge. He felt no joy in their destruction, no pleasure in their suffering. Only the cold satisfaction of knowing that justice had been served, that the price of betrayal had been paid in full. Let them live with the consequences of their choices. Let them remember, in their moments of despair, that they had brought this upon themselves. He had moved on, stronger for having discovered his own capacity for ruthlessness when crossed. The beast they had awakened would sleep again now, but it would never forget, and neither would they. Epilogue 5 years later, the Hayes Construction headquarters dominated the city skyline, its glass and steel structure a testament to the empire Eli Hayes had built from the ashes of his former life. Inside his top-floor office, Eli reviewed the latest acquisition proposals. His company was now one of the largest development firms in the state. A knock at his door revealed Rose, now CEO of the company's operations division. The years had added subtle silver streaks to her dark hair, but her eyes retained their sharp intelligence. Quarterly reports are in, she said, settling into the chair across from his desk. We've exceeded projections by 30%. The Sterling Industries renovation contract alone. Eli allowed himself a small smile at the irony, as their success had pushed them into record territory. Howard Sterling had approached him personally about rebuilding his company's headquarters, impressed by how Hayes Construction had handled similar projects. Neither man mentioned Cliff Sterling during their negotiations, though both knew the weight of that shared history. How is the retirement planning going? Rose asked, noting the real estate listings on his desk. I found a place in Montana, Eli replied, pulling up photos on his tablet. It was remote enough for privacy, yet close enough to civilization for convenience. The land is perfect for that training facility we discussed. The facility was his latest project, a center dedicated to helping victims of financial abuse rebuild their lives. The idea had come from watching Maya Rodriguez transform her pain into purpose over the years. Speaking of Maya, his phone buzzed with her weekly update. She had started her own consulting firm, specializing in digital security and financial protection, turning the skills she had honed during their revenge campaign into a legitimate business. Her mother, Elena, had fully recovered and now ran support groups for survivors of emotional and financial abuse. Have you seen this? Rose handed him a tablet open to a news article. The headline read, Former Sterling heir denied parole, board cites lack of remorse. Cliff Sterling's prison photo showed a man aged beyond his years, his once polished appearance replaced by hollow eyes and premature gray hair. The article detailed his failed attempt at early release, noting his continued claims of being set up despite overwhelming evidence of his crimes. Some people never learn, Rose observed. No, they don't, Eli said, setting aside the tablet. Any word on JY? Rose pulled up another file on her tablet. Their network of contacts still monitored his ex-wife, more out of habit than necessity now. Still working at that diner in Portland, lives in the same studio apartment, takes the same bus to work. Last month, I ventured into online dating, but the man discovered those old social media posts concerning the affair, and that was the end of that. Eli felt no satisfaction in JY's ongoing struggles, yet no pity either. She had made her choices, betrayed his trust, and mocked his devotion. Her current life was the natural consequence of those decisions. His intercom buzzed, and his assistant's voice came through. "Mr. Hayes, Detective Maxwell is here." Eli and Rose exchanged glances. Over the years, the detective had made periodic appearances, never quite letting go of his suspicions about how perfectly Eli's revenge had unfolded. "Send him in." Maxwell entered, looking much the same, save for the additional gray in his hair. He had been promoted to captain, but still preferred working cases to administrative duties. "Hayes," he nodded to Rose. "Miss Mendez. Thought you'd want to know." Cliff Sterling's cellmate came forward with some interesting information. Eli's expression remained neutral. Apparently, Sterling has been plotting revenge from prison, making plans for when he gets out. His cellmate recorded everything. Maxwell placed a file on Eli's desk. "Thought you should be aware, given your history." "Thank you, Captain." Eli did not touch the file. "But I'm not concerned. Mr. Sterling had everything: money, power, family connections. He lost it all because he thought he was untouchable. I doubt he's learned much from the experience." Still, Maxwell studied him with the same shrewd gaze that had made him a successful detective. "Be careful. Men like Sterling, they can't accept that their problems are self-inflicted. They need someone else to blame." After Maxwell left, Rose turned to Eli. "Should we be worried about Cliff Sterling?" Eli's laugh held no humor. "He couldn't beat me when he had all the advantages. What's he going to do from a prison cell?" He turned to the window, surveying the city he had helped build. The past 5 years had transformed him from a mere construction foreman into a business leader. His company's rise was a testament to his resolve and vision. His reputation for excellence was matched only by his personal reputation for uncompromising standards. His phone buzzed with a message from Marty, now a partner at his law firm. "Dinner tonight. Sarah wants to discuss the foundation's expansion." Marty had married 3 years ago, and his wife, Sarah, had taken a keen interest in the charitable foundation Eli had established. The foundation provided legal and financial assistance to victims of fraud and abuse, with Maya serving as a key advisor. "The annual fundraiser is next month," Rose reminded him. "Maya is giving the keynote speech about financial abuse recovery." Eli nodded, pride warming his voice. "She has come a long way from that crying girl in my truck's window." The foundation had been his way of transforming the darkness of his past into something meaningful. While he never regretted his revenge, never doubted that Jen and Cliff deserved their fates, he had chosen to use his resources to help others avoid similar betrayals. His computer chimed with an email notification. Howard Sterling was inviting him to join the Sterling Enterprises Board of Directors. The message made no mention of Cliff, but the subtext was clear. Howard wanted Eli's business acumen and unflinching integrity to help rebuild his company's reputation. "Life has a way of coming full circle," Rose mused, reading the email over his shoulder. 5 years ago, Cliff Sterling thought you were beneath him. Now his father wants you to help run his company. "Power isn't about money or social status," Eli replied, thinking of all the lessons he had learned since that fateful night with Maya. "It's about patience, strategy, and understanding that every action has consequences." He opened his desk drawer, pulling out a worn USB drive, the one Maya had given him that night in the parking lot. He kept it as a reminder not of his revenge, but of the moment he discovered his own strength. "Any regrets?" Rose asked softly. "About making them face consequences?" "No." Eli's voice was firm. "They mistook kindness for weakness. They perceived loyalty as a trait to be exploited. They needed to learn that certain betrayals exact a price too profound to conceive." His phone buzzed once more, another news alert concerning Cliff Sterling. Evidently, he had suffered a breakdown following the denial of his parole, raving about conspiracies and vengeance until sedation became necessary. Jen's most recent background check revealed a similar stagnation. She had never recovered from her public disgrace, never reconstructed her reputation or social standing. The art world that once celebrated her now shunned her entirely. Her endeavor to author a revealing memoir about the affair had backfired when publishers recognized that the public held no sympathy for her involvement in the scandal. "Ma's mother is speaking at next month's Survivors Retreat," Rose mentioned, shifting the subject. "Elena has truly discovered her calling, helping other women rebuild their lives." Eli smiled, genuinely heartened by this news. Elena Rodriguez had transmuted her anguish into purpose, using her own experience to guide others through comparable trauma. Her recovery and success stood as the sole unequivocally positive outcomes of the entire ordeal. "Have you heard from Howard regarding the mentorship program?" Rose inquired. The program represented another of Eli's initiatives, designed to assist young individuals in learning construction and business skills while earning fair wages. He had established it after reflecting on his own journey from foreman to CEO. "We are expanding to 3 additional cities next year," Eli replied, accessing the proposal on his tablet. "Howard is matching our funding. He appears resolute to reconstruct his family's legacy in the proper manner." The irony was not lost on either of them. Howard Sterling had lost a son but gained a business partner who embodied all the qualities he had once hoped Cliff would possess: diligence, integrity, and a focus on building rather than exploiting. Eli's assistant buzzed again. "Mr. Hayes, the board meeting commences in 10 minutes. As they collected their materials, Rose paused at the door. "Some might argue that you went too far, that annihilating them so utterly was excessive." Eli straightened his tie with the same deliberate precision he applied on construction sites. "But they didn't merely betray my trust," he countered, his voice steady. "They mocked it. They reveled in it. They believed my devotion to hard work and loyalty made me weak." His eyes hardened like tempered steel. They needed to understand that kindness and weakness are not one and the same. Some men build slowly and carefully, but what they construct can either shelter you or bury you. Together, they proceeded to the boardroom, their footsteps echoing through the headquarters Eli had built from the ground up. The conference room's panoramic view displayed dozens of Hayes construction projects, each one a testament to what patience, skill, and unyielding determination could accomplish. Later that evening, Eli sat in his home office, reviewing photographs Maya had sent from her latest security consulting assignment. She had forged her own success story, transforming the skills sharpened through adversity into a thriving enterprise dedicated to helping others guard against fraud and exploitation. His phone illuminated with a text from an unknown number. "Jen, using yet another disposable phone. Please, I need help. Just talk to me." He blocked the number without reply, just as he had countless others over the years. Let her live with the consequences of her choices. Let her remember, with every bus ride to her waitressing job and every night in her cramped apartment, precisely what her betrayal had cost her. Cliff Sterling's prison photograph stared up from the newspaper on his desk. 5 years had transformed the once arrogant businessman into a resentful inmate, raving about revenge. But his threats were hollow now. He possessed no wealth, no influence, no allies. His own father had expunged him from the family legacy. Eli felt no joy in their enduring suffering, no pleasure in their ruin. Only the cold satisfaction of knowing justice had been delivered, that the full price of betrayal had been exacted. He had emerged stronger, wiser. His capacity for ruthlessness, when tempered by his choice to help others avoid similar fates, defined him. The sun set over his city, painting the buildings his company had created in shades of gold. Below, life went on. People building, working, loving, betraying, but they did so in a world that had learned a valuable lesson. Some men, when crossed, don't get mad or get even. They get everything. The beast he discovered within himself 5 years ago slept peacefully now, content in knowing that those who had awakened it had paid the full price for their arrogance. But it remained ready, a part of him transformed by betrayal into something stronger, harder, unforgiving. Let Jin keep trying to contact him. Let Cliff plot revenge from his prison cell. They were ghosts now, cautionary tales of what happened when you mistook kindness for weakness, when you betrayed someone who understood that revenge, like construction, was all about careful planning and flawless execution. Eli Hayes had built his empire from the ruins of their betrayal. Now, he used that power to protect others, to build rather than destroy. But he never forgot the lesson that had transformed him, that some men push too far, become capable of things their enemies never imagined. And those men never forgive, never forget, never stop until justice is served in full measure. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to this channel, click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.